Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about breaking down big ideas here. And today, we're diving into a fascinating ethical puzzle from a letter that's almost 2,000 years old. Now, on the surface, it's about a controversial meal, but as you're about to see, the real issue isn't what's on the plate at all, it's about the people sitting around the table.
Okay, but before we get into all that, let's start with a little game. I want you to take a really close look at this picture. This image was generated by AI, so there are some interesting glitches hidden in plain sight. And this little game is actually a perfect metaphor for what we're about to get into, where the real meaning is also hidden just beneath the surface.
All right, so did you spot them? I mean, look at this. The cleansing foam is toothpaste, the tube is totally bent out of shape, and who squeezes it onto the whole brush head like that? You know, it's stuff that's so easy to miss if you're just glancing at it. And this whole idea, of looking closer for the hidden glitches, well, that's the exact mindset we need for the ancient texts we're digging into today.
See, the text we're about to explore is kind of the same deal. If you just give it a quick read, a surface-level glance, you'll completely miss the point. To really get what's being said, you have to look closer. You have to spot what's really going on just underneath the surface.
Okay, so with that idea of looking closer in mind, let's travel back in time. We're heading to the ancient city of Corinth. Now you gotta picture this place. It wasn't some sleepy town. It was a bustling, cosmopolitan port city, a huge center for trade and culture, and it was just packed with temples to all sorts of Greek and Roman gods. And that's where things get complicated, especially for the early Christians living there. See, a lot of the meat sold in the public markets, which, by the way, was often the cheapest meat you could buy, came from animals that had first been sacrificed in these pagan temple rituals. So you can see the problem, right? The question that was literally tearing their community apart was this: can we, as followers of Jesus, eat this meat?
And believe me, the community was totally split right down the middle. On one side, you had a group we can call the knowledge faction. They argued, and they were technically correct, that idols are just meaningless statues. They have no real power, so the meat is just meat. They figured, hey, we're free to eat it. It's just food. But then you have the conscience faction. Many of these folks were recent converts who had spent their whole lives worshiping those very idols. For them, eating that meat felt like going right back to square one. It felt like they were participating in that idol worship all over again.
So, who was right? Which side had the better argument? Well, the answer that the Apostle Paul gives in his letter to them, it's surprisingly nuanced. He doesn't just give a simple yes or no. Instead, he points them to something much, much bigger.
And this one line, it just perfectly sums up the core of his argument. He's essentially saying, hey, just being right isn't the point. In fact, being right can sometimes make us arrogant, it can puff us up. The goal isn't just knowledge. Knowledge has to be paired with something way more powerful, and that's love.
So he lays out this really practical four-step way of thinking about it. Let's just walk through it together. Okay, step one, knowledge. Paul actually agrees with the knowledge group. He says, you're right, your theology is solid, idols are nothing. But then, step two, context. He says, hold on, you have to consider that some of your friends, your fellow believers, they have a weaker conscience on this. They just don't see it the way you do. And that leads directly to step three, impact. If they see you, with your freedom, eating that meat, it could actually seriously damage their faith. It could cause them to stumble, as he puts it. Which brings us to the knockout punch, the conclusion in step four, your personal freedom, it's not the most important thing here. It has to be guided and sometimes even limited by your love for the people in your community.
And boom, just like that, he completely reframes the whole debate. Suddenly, it's not about the meat anymore. It was never really about the meat. It was about people. It's about how our personal choices, the things we think are just about us, actually have a ripple effect on everyone else. The health of the community, the unity of the group, that became way more important than any one person's right to eat a certain meal.
Okay, so what in the world does a 2,000-year-old argument about temple meat have to do with you and me today? Well, it turns out the principle underneath it all is absolutely timeless, and it gives us this incredible filter for navigating our own tricky gray areas.
And the text gives us this as the ultimate litmus test. The question completely changes. It goes from a very self-focused, can I do this, am I allowed, to a much bigger others-focused question. Does this thing I'm about to do build up the people around me? Does it honor a higher purpose? I mean, think about it. This applies to so much, right? The kind of media we consume, the way we talk, the jokes we tell. This principle pushes us to ask not just, do I have a right to do this, but what is the loving thing to do? How will this choice affect other people? And that leaves us with a pretty challenging question to chew on, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a world that champions individual freedom, personal rights, you do you. But this ancient text comes at us with this radical countercultural idea. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the most profound expression of freedom isn't using it for yourself with no limits, but actually choosing to lay it down, to limit your own freedom out of love for another person. What a thought.